We are told that the gunshot wound, the fatal wound inflicted on the President of the United States, entered at the base of the throat and came out at the base of the neck on the back side.
That the brain wound in the President's head involved a great loss of blood and a great loss of brain tissue. The brain wound was in the back of his head, slightly to the right, which, Frank, would fit with the picture I gave you earlier.
Yes, Bob.
Of the President having his back to the assailant. If this hypothesis that the assailant was in the building I described is true, but this conflicts with the fact that the wound in the neck, the doctors say, was in the front of the neck, just below the Adam's apple. Now, it could have been that there were two bullets. One struck him as he faced the assailant, the other as the car turned the corner. This conflicts with the fact that the wound in the neck, the doctors say, was in the front of the neck, just below the Adam's apple. This conflicts with the fact that the wound in the neck, the doctors say, was in the front of the neck, just below the Adam's apple. Now, it could have been that there were two bullets. One struck him as he faced the assailant.
And that the fatal shots that were fired from behind and struck him in the back of the head. And then incongruously, some way, another bullet struck him in the front of the neck. And then incongruously.
However, a surviving clip of Dr. Perry recorded not long after the press conference.
Arriving at the emergency room, Dr. Perry placed a tube in the President's trachea to assist his breathing. There was a neck wound anteriorly and a large wound in his head in the right posterior area.
The third shot. It hit the President in the head, right up here, upper right rear. It opened up a massive enough wound so that blood, brain material, bone fragments came out of the wound.
This part of his head right here was all gone.
This whole section of his head was gone.
There was a massive wound at the back of his head.
This part of his head was blown away and the brains were exposed.
He had a large defect, meaning a hole in the back of his head.
Quite a large defect, about here on his skull.
The right back part of the head in this area here had been blasted out.
There was a wound in this area of the head, right in this area.
About 7 centimeter opening in the right occipital parietal area.
As I remember, it's like this.
Into the temporal parietal, back into the parietal area.
A big wound, big deficit in his skull and the temporal parietal area.
Back here, right where I'm putting my hand, this part was simply blasted out.
The back or the occipital part, the back of your head. This was gone.
Primary area, which was in the back of the head on the right side.
I feel it right there. Right almost in the middle of the back of the head, just to the side.
Open area all the way across into the rear of the brain like that.
The wound is approximately in this area.
From the top of the head almost back to near the base of the skull.
A big gaping hole in the back of the head.
Big gaping hole in the right rear of the head back here.
A massive wound in the right rear.
The back portion of the brain was badly torn up.
A huge gaping hole here in the back.
In the back of his head, above the line, big hole about the size of a grapefruit.
President Kennedy's body is following on another plane. President Kennedy's body is following on another plane. President Kennedy's body is following on another plane.
Oh, it's been quite a shock to all.
Well, actually, we have gotten little official word from the White House. We got the announcement something like a half an hour ago that the president was dead. There has still been no official word from the doctors who were in attendance. It's known, of course, that the president was killed by one shot that struck him in the right temple. I can recap briefly.
First reports said that President Kennedy was shot from an overpass. Our WFAA TV reporter, Mal Couch, saw the gun emerge from the upper story of the warehouse, which has turned out to be the second floor of the Texas Book Depository. which is a familiar sign.
Bob, go ahead.
May report this bulletin that a Secret Service agent and a Dallas policeman were shot and killed here today. They were shot some distance from the area where President Kennedy was assassinated. No other information immediately available from there, except one more point here that this Secret Service Lieutenant Eric Kaminsky has said the assassin's weapon appears to have been a high-powered Army or Japanese rifle of .25 caliber. The entire building where the sniper was located was evacuated. If we could get a picture of our map here and show somewhere of the building, it's a Texas school book depository, which means exactly what it says.
This is the car where the president was. This is what we call our triple underpass in Dallas. This is the grassy area where, and it was originally thought that the shots came from in here, and now it's believed that the shots came from this building here. We have a film.
But the president's car was some 50 feet still yet.
In front of you?
In front of us coming towards us, and we heard the first shot, and the president, I don't know who was hit first, but the president jumped up in his seat, and I thought it scared him. I thought it was a firecracker because he looked, fear. And then as the car got directly in front of us, well, a gunshot apparently from behind us hit the president in the side of the temple.
Do you think the first gunshot came from behind you too?
I think it came from the same location. Apparently back up on the mall. I don't know what you call it.
For the benefit of nomenclature, all of you folks have gone out under the viaduct, and as you turn, going under the viaduct on the left-hand side, there's some grass. Do you think the shot came from up on top of the viaduct toward the president? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Not on the viaduct itself, but up on top of the hill, a little mound of ground there, the garden.
How far away would you say that is from where the president was? A couple of 300 yards, something like that?
Well, I have no idea because I didn't see where the gunshot come from. We were looking directly at the president when he was hit, and he was more or less directly in front of us, and we didn't realize what happened until we seen the side of his head whenever the bullet hit him in the head.
Did you see the blood coming from the president's head?
Yes, sir. We seen that. I seen that. I don't know if my wife did. I seen that.
Oh, yes, sir. It was awful.
It is awful.
However, we must remember the wounds as described by many of the treatment staff at Parkland Hospital in Dallas.
The only wounds noted at Parkland during treatment on the day the president was shot was an entry wound in the front of the neck and a gaping, avulsed, exploded exit wound in the right rear quadrant of the head.
Was the back of Kennedy's head really gone? No. It was? Okay. He had no brain left. It was blown out. I feel a little losing out the car.
Yet the photos and x-rays from the autopsy clearly tell a different story.
They depict images unlike anything seen in Dallas by the treatment staff, and images that do not correspond properly with what was seen by people present at the autopsy.
The location of the head wound is key evidence. Since a bullet almost always makes a small wound when it enters and a large wound when it exits, a big wound at the back of JFK's head would indicate a shot from the front, and more than one shooter. Most of the doctors and nurses who treated the president at Parkland did see a large wound at the rear of the head. Dr. Robert McClelland.
It was in the right back part of the head, very large.
Nurse Audrey Bell.
There was a massive wound at the back of his head.
Dr. Charles Carrico.
There was quite a large defect about here on his skull.
Dr. Ronald Jones.
Well, my impression was that there was a wound in this area of the head, right in this area.
But 6 of the Dallas doctors testified they saw a part of the brain called the cerebellum protruding from the president's head wound. The cerebellum is located at the extreme back of the head.
And a portion of the cerebellum fell out onto the table as we were doing the tracheostomy.
It did.
Mm-hmm.
So the wound was very far back here.
Right. That's one of my more vivid memories, I would say, of the whole thing. That was particularly grim to see that portion of the brain ooze out of the wound as I sat there looking at it, stood there looking at it. So that stays with you pretty much.
But now, some of the Dallas doctors, like Marion Jenkins, are changing their stories. As late as 1977, Jenkins was saying he had seen the cerebellum protruding from JFK's head wound, meaning the wound was far to the rear. But recently, Jenkins had his first look at the official photos and x-rays.
Well, after looking at photographs, some made from this angle, looking down at the top of the head, it did look like cerebellum. It still looks like it, but it's obviously not. I'm not trying to defend it. I've made an error, and I have been, but I say I make errors. I call my kids with the wrong names.
The Dallas doctor's recollections about an exit wound in the back of the president's head are confirmed by witnesses at the Bethesda Hospital autopsy.
I mean, a big gaping hole in the back of the head.
Floyd Reeby, a photographer on duty, talked with Wayne Friedman.
So it's like somebody put a piece of dynamite in a tin can and light it off. There was nothing there.
Open area all the way across into the rear of the brain like that.
From the top of the head almost back to near the base of the skull. You could see where that part was gone.
So eyewitnesses in Dallas and Bethesda describe a wound extending all the way to the back of the head. But official autopsy photos and x-rays move the wound all the way to the front of the head. The photos show the back of the head with hair and scalp intact. No large wound. The x-rays show a large wound extending to the forehead.
Certainly I can tell you that the wound was not here. There was no damage to the face that was visible.
What about the official photos and x-rays? We showed them to the 3 eyewitnesses to JFK's autopsy. Photos and x-rays not available to the public since the assassination, but recently obtained by the press. Gerald Custer took the x-rays that night. Is this the x-ray picture that you took, and is this the wound that you saw on the president?
This area here was gone.
Not this area?
Not this area.
Floyd Reeby assisted with the autopsy photos.
The 2 pictures that I've seen that you showed me that are supposedly from the archives are not what I saw that night. Now, I don't know where those pictures came from.
The back of the head looked like that? What did the back of the head look like?
It had a big hole in it. This whole area was gone.
Does that look like what you saw?
No, it doesn't look like what I saw. This would be a lesser of a wound than what I saw. I saw a lot worse wound that extended way back into this area here.
Was the president's hair and scalp like that?
No.
What was it like?
This part of the head was gone. There was no scalp there.
Are you telling me that this is not?
I don't believe so.
You don't think this is an
No.
honest-to-God autopsy photo?
No, I don't.
What do you think it is?
I don't know.
It's being phonied someplace. It's make-believe.
To me, it's rather obvious that the president had been struck before Governor Conley was wounded, because the president was placing his hand up to his throat. And at that time, the governor was showing no signs of any distress that he had been struck in any way. It was just a few frames later that he obviously had been wounded and showed signs that he was in pain.
The commission claimed that Governor Conley had simply suffered a delayed reaction to his wounds. Dr. Robert Shaw was the attending surgeon at Parkland Hospital who operated on the governor.
I would disagree, because I don't think that there would be a delayed action to a wound that was as massive as the wound he received of his chest. And I'm also influenced by what Nellie Conley said. She said that her husband was struck and reared up like a wounded animal before she heard the bullet. I mean, heard the shot that had been fired. So this would indicate that his reaction was almost immediate. This bullet is too pristine for a bullet that had shattered a rib and also badly shattered the radius, which is a good, strong bone. I am sure that the bullet that inflicted these wounds on Governor Connally was fragmented much more than this bullet shows.
This is the bullet. Could it look like this after it went through Kennedy's neck and then struck the governor? The surgeon who operated on Governor Connally's chest wounds at Parkland Hospital was Dr. Robert Shaw.
The bullet struck lateral to the shoulder blade, stripped out approximately 10 centimeters of the fifth rib, driving fragments of the rib into his chest, went on and struck the radius bone of his lower arm at this point, and a small fragment of bullet entered the inner aspect of the lower left thigh. I have never seen a bullet that had caused as much bony damage as you found in the case of Governor Connally remain as a pristine bullet.
But looking at the wounds, Dr. Shaw disagrees.
I couldn't quite understand why a bullet going through the president's neck, coming from the right and above, exiting out through his throat, would then zig and zag to strike the governor who was sitting directly in front of the president. It would seem to me that that bullet would have struck the governor in the left side of his chest rather than the right side of his chest.
It looked small and round, like an entry wound, instead of larger, like an exit wound could often look.
Had surgery been done in Dallas?
No, there was no surgery done on the president's head. The president was only treated in the trauma room, in the emergency room.
I could see the president's head wound quite well, and I was probably looking into a wound that was on the lateral or the side part of the head and the back part of the head.
It would be this portion of the head right here.
As I remember, it's like this.
I would have to say, honestly, in looking at these photos, they're pretty much as I remember President Kennedy at the time, except for that little incision that seems to be coming down in the parietal area. On looking at the photographs, I could envision that an incision might have been made in order to pull the scalp back to expose this bone to make a photograph of that area.
Perhaps this explains the surgery to the head area the FBI mentioned.
I find no discrepancy between the wounds as they're shown very vividly in these photographs and what I remember very vividly. There was a very large...
But do the doctor's assertions that they saw no altered wounds clear up the issue?
Side of the head that I had described earlier.
The drawing suggests what many of the photos examined by the doctors in Nova show, a large wound about this size and location. But what about this photo, which shows what appears to be only a small entry wound in the back of Kennedy's head? Dr. McClellan speculates.
The pathologist has taken this loose piece of scalp, which is hanging back this way in most of the pictures, exposing this large wound, and has pulled the scalp forward to take a picture. Naturally, the scalp appears to be in its normal state, and there doesn't seem to be any sort of wound in the area where I had drawn the picture that showed this large hole.
But doesn't this large wound suggest a shot from the front, as Lifton argues? This drawing, made for Congress, suggests how a small rear entry wound could have created the large wound. Finally, if the large wound was really in this part of the head, why did most of the doctors note back in 1963 that they had seen a specific part of the brain called the cerebellum?
I did say cerebellum in my first official report, and the cerebellum ordinarily is in a posterior part. And here I knew very well that the wound was more anterior than that, but there was a portion of the brain that looked like it had a stalk, and it was convoluted to look like what I thought was cerebellum.
I said that I thought perhaps part of the cerebellum was missing.
Former Senator John Sherman Cooper is the first member of the Warren Commission to agree to talk on television about what went on inside the deliberations.
Yes, there were disagreements. I think the most serious one that comes to me the most vividly, of course, was the question of whether or not the first shot went through President Kennedy and then through Governor Connally, who was sitting on the jump seat in front of him. I heard Governor Connally testify very strongly that he was not struck with the same bullet, and I could not convince myself that the same bullet struck both of them, although you had experts who said it could. And
you mean that you yourself weren't convinced about the single bullet theory, which...
No, I wasn't convinced by it. Neither was Senator Russell.
Just before he died in 1971, Senator Russell caused the first cracks in the Warren Commission's Gibraltar of factual literature. Russell said publicly, "I think someone else worked with Lee Harvey Oswald." Dallas Police Chief Jesse Curry was in the fatal motorcade just ahead of the president and cannot accept the Warren Commission view that the only shot came from behind.
I think there's a possibility that one could have come from in front of us. We've never been able to prove that. But just in my mind, and by the direction of the blood and brain from the president from one of the shots, it would just seem that it would have to be fired from the front rather than behind. I can't say that could swear that I believe there was one man and one man alone. I think that there's a possibility there could have been another man.
Jesse Curry was Dallas Police Chief at the time of the assassination.
The first shot, approximately right along here. You didn't look back at that point? No, I looked in the rear view mirror.
I see. Now, you've seen the Zapruder film that was taken from up this hill. And there's a very distinct head snap where the President Kennedy's head is hit backwards. Doesn't that suggest that the shot would have come from the...
Well, it would appear to be so.
And at the same, we also have Dr. Malcolm Perry at Parkland Hospital saying that he examined the wound in the president's throat and it was an entrance wound.
Yes.
Which would also suggest that the shot had come from the front.
I'm not saying that the shot was not fired from here. I'm saying we never found anybody that we could connect with it.
But it does suggest that the evidence that we have is, in both cases, rather strong evidence that there was another assassin involved.
That's right.
I could see into the skull. There was a hole in the skull. And you could see that part of the brain was gone. It wasn't even there.
Basically, we're on yours. Well, we did this the other day, and we'll do it again, right about in this section here. Okay. With probably, there was matting, there was pieces of bone tissue, there was pieces of skull, all there. And I have no idea, George, because I did not have a, micrometer at the time. I couldn't say.
Was it the size of an orange?
Oh, I would say a little bit bigger than an orange.
The official autopsy report, I think, put it at around 6 inches at the largest diameter. That was Hume's. That's the autopsy report that I have.
I would not debate that. If he said that, fine. I would say that that's pretty.
Now the president's brain, from what you saw, obviously it was still in the cranium.
There was a portion of the brain.
Well,
now wait a minute.
Roughly how much?
We've discussed this in the past. No, but I don't know exactly how much. I do know that the X-rays indicate there was a brain in there. I do know I saw a brain in there. Not a total brain. It was a pretty mishmashed piece of pulp.
Did you see them take it out?
Yes.
Well, with all respect...
Did you see them take out the brain?
Wait a minute. I saw them talk out what remained in the area there. Okay. In other words, you scooped it out. There was no cutting of the main thing, as I understand it, as is normally done now.
The Warren Commission ignored the film evidence of a shot from the front. They were also selective in their choice of eyewitness testimony. 2 members of the Willis family told them of hearing shots fired from behind the president's car. However, other vital evidence they tried to offer went unrecorded.
The implication was persuading, yes, ma'am, because all they wanted to know was 3 shots that probably came from the depository building, which I never have doubted. That's about all they wanted. That's about all got into the Warren Commission, really, that I heard 3 loud shots from the Texas depository.
The headshot seemed to come from the right front. It seemed to strike him here, and his head went back, and all of the brain matter went out the back of the head. It was like a red halo, a red circle with bright matter in the middle of it. It just went like that. It was a terrible time. You cannot imagine seeing this. You knew it happened, but you didn't want to believe it.
The particular headshot must have come from another direction besides behind him, because the back of his head blew off, and it doesn't make sense to be hit from the rear and still have your face intact. So he must have been hit from another position, possibly, in the front or over to the side. I really don't know where. But the back of his head blew off.
So I am very dead certain at least one shot, including the one that took the president's skull off, had to come from the right front. And I'll stand by that to my death, over my mother's grave.
The doctors at Parkland Hospital who tended the president minutes after the assassination also saw a head wound compatible with a shot from the front.
I could see that he had a large, about 7-centimeter opening in the right occipital-parietal area. A considerable portion of the brain was missing there, and the occipital cortex, the back portion of the brain, was lying down near the opening of the wound, and blood was trickling out.
Almost a fifth or perhaps even a quarter of the right back part of the head in this area here had been blasted out, along with probably most of the brain tissue in that area.
When asked to specify about the wound, the doctor said the president was shot in the forehead.
President Kennedy, we are now informed, was shot in the right temple. It was a simple matter of a bullet right through the head, said Dr. George Berkeley, the White House medical officer.
We know that Mr. Kennedy was hit in the right temple.
This late bulletin, the president was shot in the right temple. It was a simple matter of a bullet right through the head. This is a quote from Dr. George Berkeley, the White House medical officer.
Governor Connally could very possibly have been shot in the back with the assassin's bullet still coming from the front of the car. He rode in a small jump seat in the center of the back of the specially built presidential limousine, specially built for such public performances such as this.
Vice President Johnson under heavy guard right now, with assassins obviously still at large, because this apparently is the work of more than one man. A cluster of rifle bullets, husks from bullets, have been found on the 5th floor of the Sexton building, from which the assassination attempt and successful assassination attempt began.
The wounds indicated that an automatic weapon was used.
You're listening to KBOX 1480 in Dallas. The Secret Service tells KBOX News that President Kennedy was apparently shot by a high-powered Army or Japanese rifle, about 25 caliber.
First reports said that President Kennedy was shot from an overpass. You would imagine these quarters became swarmed with investigators, Secret Service.
There's the window there.
The window right there where the fatal bullet was fired.
The fatal shots were apparently fired from a 5th floor window, and that is where the spent shells have been found. Interestingly, the murder weapon itself was found on the 6th floor, which indicated that the assassin ran upstairs in an effort to hide the weapon before leaving the building.
Dallas Crime Laboratory Lieutenant J.C. Day went to the building a short time after the shooting took place, and he walked out with a British .303 rifle. The rifle has a telescopic sight. Now, the rifle was found on the 6th floor of the building near a corner window. Also, police searching that area found 3 empty .303 cartridge cases, also scraps of chicken, as if a person could have been there for some time.
Now, we are starting to get conflicting reports on weapons. There was one that it was a .303 rifle, and that 3 spent .303 cartridges were found on the 5th floor of this building. along with some remnants of chicken, indicating that the sniper staked himself out for quite a while before firing the fatal shot today. Now there is another word that a Mauser has been found, a 7.65 Mauser. It's a German army rifle which had a telescopic sight with one shell left in the chamber. 3 spent shells were found nearby. What this means, whether this is the weapon or the other, we do not know. Possibly the Mauser is measured in millimeters and might come close to being a .303, Frank.
Wounds in the governor's chest were clearly visible. The wounds indicated an automatic weapon had been used. Police say this is believed to be a .30 caliber pistol, a rather rifle.
Do you know exactly what kind of gun that they found over at the book?
Yes, sir. They have just found the weapon that they believe is the assassination weapon. It is an Argentine 6.5 Mauser that had a 4-power scope on it. Also, in this same area, they found a bag of chicken. They found several bottles of soft drink. And in other words, the man had been planted there for some time.
This is an Argentine-made bolt-action rifle of World War II vintage. You can see the telescopic sight.
We have heard that a definite identification has been made of the type of rifle used in the assassination of President Kennedy. It was not a Mauser, as has been reported through most of yesterday and today. Mauser, German-made rifle with the sniper scope sights that was found on the German-built Mauser with the sniper scope that was used to kill President Kennedy.
7.65 Mauser, German rifle, familiar to those who served in World War II. Place. It's a 7.65 Mauser, German-made army rifle, telescopic sight, and 1 shell left in the chamber. 3 spent shells have been found nearby, and apparently they're hooking this as the murder weapon.
Sniper scope, high-powered Mauser
The Deluxe
rifle.
Sheriff's Department said the rifle had been found in a staircase on the 5th floor of a building near the scene of the assassination. It was a 7.65 Mauser.
A German Mauser, I believe.
There's another word that a Mauser has been found.
Mauser.
Oswald worked in the building where the murder weapon, a German-made Mauser rifle, was
still found in the Mauser with which the assassin was apparently armed.
Let's go back now to Dallas and to Dan Rather.
We have just returned from seeing a complete motion picture of the moments immediately preceding and the moments of President Kennedy's assassination. The second shot, the third shot in all, the second shot hit the president's head. His head went forward in a violent motion, pushing it down like this.
President Kennedy, we are now informed, was shot in the right temple. It was a simple matter of a bullet right through the head, said Dr. George Berkeley, the White House medical officer.
We know that Mr. Kennedy was hit in the right temple.
The doctors who were in attendance, it's known, of course, that the president was killed by 1 shot that struck him in the right temple.
Approximately 12:35 today, and from our eyewitness that you saw earlier, was shot from up in here. This is an overpass going over these streets. We call it our triple underpass because there's another one. Was shot from here. This is the car where the president was. This is what we call our triple underpass in Dallas. This is the grassy area where, and it was originally thought that the shots came from in here.
At first it was thought that the assassin's bullet might have been fired from one of those walkways or railroad trestles.
For late details, we go to newsman Tom Whalen at WBAP-TV, Fort Worth.
Hang on. This is Tom Whalen in Fort Worth. WBAP newsman James Darnell in Dallas on the scene of the presidential shooting, the shooting in which President Kennedy and Governor Connally were shot, has an eyewitness interview with a Mrs. Jean Hill. Here is the interview.
What is your name, ma'am?
Jean Hill.
From Dallas?
That's right.
And did you see the shooting, miss?
Yes, sir.
Can you describe what happened?
Yes, sir.
Will you do that now?
They were driving along, and we were the only people in this area on our side, and the shots came from directly across the street from us. And just as the president's car became directly even with us, we took one look at him, and he was sitting there, and about that time, 2 shots rang out just as he looked up. Just as the president looked up, and these 2 shots rang out, and he grabbed his chest, and it looked like he was in pain, and he fell over in his seat, and Jackie fell over on him and said, "My God, he's been shot." And after that, more shots rang out, and the car sped away.
Now, what kind of car was that?
What kind of a car was it? The president's
I mean, where did the shots come from?
The shots came from the hill.
From the hill?
Yes. It was just east of the underpass.
And
we were on the south side.
Did you look up there where the shots came from, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Could you see anyone?
I thought I saw this man running, but I looked at the president, and for a while, and I looked up there, and I thought I saw a man running, and so right after that, I guess I didn't have any better sense. I started running up there too.
And what is your name?
Jean Hill.
I mean, where did the shots come from?
The shots came from the hill.
From the hill?
Yes. It was just east of the underpass.
He died of a gunshot wound in the brain. Dr. Berkeley told me it's a simple matter, Tom, of a bullet right through the head.
When the police officers were searching the area, approximately 15 minutes before I had to go back to my office, there was about 40 or 50 people around here searching. And what did you find here? A lot of footprints behind this car, mud on the bumpers. And I looked around to see if I could find some empty shells or any evidence of a shot being fired and the bullet shell rejected from the gun. And this is where I saw the smoke from the 3rd shot. Right drifting out around here? Just drifting out underneath these trees.
Where were you on November 22nd, Mr. Dodd?
I was standing on the underpass, Commerce Underpass in Dallas, Texas.
Were you there alone?
No, I was along with 3 friends of mine.
Railroad men?
Yeah, all railroad men.
Mr. Holland was one of them.
That's right.
And did you see anything which might indicate to you where the shots came from?
Well, we all 4 seen about the same thing as the shots. The smoke came from behind the hedge on the north side of the plaza, and a motorcycle policeman dropped his motorcycle in the street with his gun in his hand and run up the embankment to the hedge. And then I went north to look around the corner to see if there's anyone behind the hedge, and met Special Agent of the Katy Railroad, and he went down there, and I walked along with him to see if there were any tracks there, in which there were tracks, and cigarettes butts were laying where someone had been standing on the bumper, looking over the fence or something.
Were you questioned by agents of any government agency on November 22nd, Mr. Dodd?
Yes, we were. We were taken over to the courthouse and questioned by, I suppose, Secret Service men of some kind. And they asked me quite a few questions, about the same as I've told you men here today.
But you were never called as a witness by the Warren?
No, I never was called.
Because here's the Warren report, and in the index your name is not listed, and there's no reference in the whole 888 pages to the fact that you were up there and you saw what you saw, you heard what you heard.
Well, I don't know about that. But there was something that looks to me like that going on there, that somebody should have found out something. A man walk up and shoot a man handcuffed to a couple of policemen and get away with it. Why, I figured there's something else was going on besides what it should be.
We are in Mesquite, Texas, in the home of James Leon Simmons, a car inspector for the Union Terminal Railroad. Mr. Simmons, how long have you been employed by the Union Terminal?
I've been employed by the Union Terminal 11 years.
Were you a witness to the assassination of President Kennedy?
Yes, I was standing on the Elm Street overpass at the time of the assassination.
Were you there alone or with others?
There was a group of employees from the Union Terminal at the time and 2 Dallas policemen.
What did you see and what did you hear?
As the presidential limousine was rounding the curve on Elm Street, there was a loud explosion. At the time, I didn't know what it was, but it sounded like a loud firecracker or a gunshot. And it sounded like it came from the left and in front of us, towards the wooden fence. And there was a puff of smoke that came underneath the trees on the embankment.
Where was the puff of smoke, Mr. Simmons, in relation to the wooden fence?
It was right directly in front of the wooden fence.
I show you a picture published by the Warren Commission as Commission Exhibit number 2215, which is a view of the Triple Underpass area. I ask you if you'd be good enough to mark with this pen with an X the area where you thought the shots came from and where you saw the smoke.
It was this area here.
After you heard the shot and saw the smoke, what did you do?
I was talking with a patrolman Foster at the time, and as soon as we heard the shots, we ran around to the wooden fence. And when we got there, there was no one there, but there was footprints in the mud around the fence, and there was footprints on the wooden 2x4 railing on the fence.
Were you questioned by the Dallas police on that day?
Yes, I was.
Did you give your name to the Dallas police?
Yes, I did.
Did you tell them what you just told me?
Yes, I did.
Were you subsequently questioned by agents of the Federal Bureau of Investigation?
About a month later, I was questioned by the FBI.
Did you tell them what you told me and what you told the Dallas police?
Yes, I did.
Were you ever called as a witness by the Warren Commission?
No, sir, I wasn't.
This is the Warren Commission report. Back of it has an index of every person who is referred to by the Commission. Is your name present there?
No, sir, it isn't.
You think it's rather curious that you had such a fine view of the whole Dealey Plaza area, and you were among those who saw smoke coming from evidently behind the fence, and yet you were not called by the Commission as a witness?
Well, I always found it peculiar, but I thought that's the way they did business.
Here's the Texas School Book Depository right here, isn't it?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And you thought the shots came from another direction, didn't you, sir?
I thought they came from the knoll over here.
Well, let's just get down here. If you could just step down a minute, and let's take this marker and put an X where you think the pictures were, or the shots were.
Okay. As you can see, as we already said, this is Texas School Book Depository, which is at Houston and Elm Street. And a little side street here that ran down here, and it was a dead end. Well, right down in this area here was a knoll, as they call it there.
A grassy knoll.
Yes.
Just write grassy knoll.
Okay.
Okay, and just put an X from where you thought the shots were coming from.
Okay.
You just did that. Thank you. And I don't know what exhibit number this is, but we'll take care of that with the court's counsel's permission a little later. Would you just write your name up there, Mr. Frazier?
Okay.
So we know it was you that put it there.